It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Sunday, January 8th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is taking this special episode to do a special deep dive on three of our young guys, Morgan Frost, Owen Tippett, and Cam York.
We need like a flashing stat like the Flyers use, but we don't have it. So, yeah.
All right, let's get the show going.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with the brilliant Russ Cohen, who is on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Flyers. That is where you will keep up to date with our episodes and Flyers news. You can email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail.com. We will be having a mailbag on Wednesday, so get those questions in. We are going to preview tonight's game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then we will wrap up with our Nemesis of the week. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you are listening. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well. Real quickly, before we get into our preview of tonight's matchup against Toronto, Bobby Brink did indeed start for the Phantoms on Friday night. He did not play Saturday, but we'll talk about that on Phantoms Tuesday and what's going on with the crowded roster there. But he scored in that first game back, which was really nice to see.
He did, but his skating stride is shorter. Like when he went to go take that shot, he had to lean over a little. He wasn't able to sort of like skate into it. So I have a little bit of worry about that. It's
going to take some time. Yeah, it's definitely going to take some time for him, but always good to see a guy come back like that and get on the board.
No doubt.
All right, turning to tonight's matchup versus Toronto. It's been interesting since we saw them so recently on December 22nd. Since then, most recently they won versus Detroit 4-1. Pretty solid game for the Leafs. Samsonov had a good game in net. He'd been struggling a little bit recently. So that means we'll see Matt Murray in net tonight. But they did lose to Arizona 6-3.
They can't beat Arizona.
I know. It's this weird thing this year. It's true.
So we got to take them out of it. Like they just can't beat them.
Yeah. Well, since December 22nd, they're 3-2-1. The Flyers are 4-1-0. Take that what you will, I guess. But it's a real interesting situation for these two teams tonight.
It is. The thing about Murray is he has lost 3 out of 5. The wins have been great and the losses have been bad. So it's like that's sort of like really accentuated with him. People in Leafland feel like they're just kind of going through this midseason lull. It's possible. The plus side for the Leafs is they, through all their injuries, and they've had a lot of injuries, they've been able to work in some of the young guys that we'll talk about. And that's actually helped them. So this is a hard game. It's going to be a hard game from a possession standpoint, like it was last time.
Yeah, and in that last game, even though I think, the Leafs were playing a little better, it was kind of before the main part of this lull that you were talking about. John Tavares had a hat trick in that game. The Leafs were up 4-1 in that one, if you recall, and the Flyers scored 2 goals, but they couldn't quite, complete that comeback, and it was partially because the Flyers just had an inability to take advantage of key situations. So they had a terrible 5-on-3 power play and up a man at the end of the game. They just couldn't get it done. And, while it wasn't that long ago, I don't feel like the Flyers are quite as bad in those departments now as they were then.
No, I think that's fair to say. I mean, They certainly could do a little better in those spots, but John Tavares was on a lull and he just scored 2 goals last night. So he's going to do well against the
hopefully
Flyers.
He got it out of his system.
He didn't. He's going to do well against the Flyers. That's just one of those teams that he performs well against. But as far as dealing with the Leafs, you still got to deal with their top 2 lines. You still have to deal with guys like Bunting. You still have who are good in the corners, and now they've added Pontus Holmberg on the 4th line, who's a really good center who can get to the net. And the problem is the Flyers don't keep anybody out of the net, and that's where they're going to have some trouble, I think, in this game.
Yeah, I think there's 2 parts of the defensive structure that are going to have to hold for a lot more of the game than it did the last time around. And that's keeping those offensive weapons to the outside better and making sure that the high slot is covered. I think that's going to be key, because that's especially where a team like the Leafs is going to get second opportunities, right? They'll take that shot from the high slot, and without, Flyers defensemen to either sweep the puck out to support the goaltender if they allow a rebound, which is going to be Carter Hart, by the way. So he's a lot better with controlling rebounds, I would say. But I will say that the other thing is that they're going to have to clear net front and be really mindful of that and clearing the net front space, but then also making sure that they continue to do it, right? They don't just clear it once and then allow somebody to skate back in, because they've done this before.
Right. The issue is York's not been very good at clearing the net. He's done some other things to upgrade defensively, but not that. So you almost think that they should play the second pairing against their top line to try and have Risto match up against Matthews and keep him out of the middle. That's what I would do as coach, and see how that goes.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Cam York later in the episode a little bit, and some interesting information relative to who he's paired with and situationally. So I think that is a very apt point to make for this particular game.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you kind of notice about him. I mean, look, Konechny's hot. He'll always want to do well against the Toronto team, so that's good. Hayes has picked up a little bit, so maybe he'll continue that. Cates still has to do better offensively. He hasn't really done much. And honestly, Sanheim picked up a little bit. He still needs to pick up more offensively. Like I still expect more out of him, but I think it's the bottom 6 that's actually going to be the thing in this game, because again, it's going to be hard matching up against their top 6. I think, Konechny will get his points because he's been getting them all year, but I think they're going to have to get some points from guys they haven't been getting them from, not the ones that have been doing it.
Yeah, and those matchups are going to be key. And I think the Flyers are really lucky that this one is at home, because getting the last change is going to be super important, especially because the Leafs just have so much better depth than the Flyers do right now.
Yeah, Frost against Tavares is a tough matchup.
I know. And so I think that, to be able to get as ideal matchups as possible, especially on stoppages and getting the right D pairing out there to match up with whoever the Leafs put out, I think is going to be a huge part of this game.
Yeah, it will be, for sure.
I think, the other thing is really trying to take advantage of the fact that the Leafs are on the second half of a back-to-back. And really, last time when the Flyers played them, they really only picked up in the third period, right?
Yeah.
Like the first 2 periods were not great in that one overall. I think, the Flyers played the Leafs well in that first period, but they didn't have much to show for it. This time it's going to have to be a 60-minute effort.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to really pour it on early, because the Leafs sort of play fast and loose early and always try and show off offensively and have all that puck possession. If you could get them down, then
take that away.
Yeah, you take that away, that would help, because if the Leafs get up, they do have a good defense. And actually, now that they've added the younger players, and Giordano really looks like he's rolled back the clock, it's been good. It's better. This is probably the best defense the Leafs have had in a while. And I get they're undermanned, but just in general this year. And when they're at full strength, which they're not yet, they're even going to be better. So this will be an interesting matchup, but, I wouldn't bet on the Flyers. That's all I would say.
And I'd stay out of the box too.
Yes.
All right. We are going to talk about three of the younger players on the Flyers, kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive into how they're performing, what we want to see from them, all of that. We're going to start with Morgan Frost and Owen Tippett coming up next.
Today's episode is sponsored by Athletic Greens. I started using Athletic Greens because I wanted better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system, and hated taking pills and vitamins. And I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, and focus. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Athletic Greens contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything while still tasting good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop of water. Scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and vitamins and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Make sure you also check out Locked On NHL Prospects. It's a daily show covering the next generation of hockey superstars leading up to the next NHL draft, plus draft rankings, top prospects comparisons for every team. It's available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Russ, I want to start of the three guys we are going to cover today with Morgan Frost. I think that he has been the most exciting advancement. I think maybe other than Travis Konechny coming back with a vengeance. I think Morgan Frost's trajectory this season has been one of the most positive things we've seen from the Flyers this season. So far, he's got 8 goals, 11 assists for 19 points, which is already more than the point total he had last season in 55 games, which is tremendous. I think to think about, we're not even quite at the halfway mark. And he's been playing that well. And since December 1st, he's second on the team with points with 14. Travis Konechny has 21. He's under a point per game, but rapidly approaching that. And if you look at Travis Konechny's minutes, he's averaging 21:30 per game, and Frost is at 16:49 per game since December 1st. So he's doing this in less minutes than Travis Konechny. So if you just want to kind of look at some apple and pear comparison there. And his face-off win percentage, while it's still not above 50%, it's getting better. He's at 47% now. If you look at his season total, it's 43.7.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get 50% in this league. 47 lately is good. That means some games he's 52 and others he's 42. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I think there's 2 things going on here. Like, I don't think he developed much under Mike Yeo because Mike Yeo just had the shackles on all the time. I think Torts has let some of his offensive players be offensive, also because he knows his team is not really a Stanley Cup contender. Now, after this year, when Frost sort of gets used to things, he's getting better on the stretch passes. He's definitely playing better away from the puck. There is going to be a tightening up where he's not going to be able to be as fast and loose like he is against like some teams like the Coyotes. Like that is going to change for everybody on this team, but it's not going to be this season. So it's good to let him develop under this. And then, next year he'll have even more confidence and then probably can be a little better all around.
Yeah, I think that's one of the advantages of this time in the Flyers schedule for Morgan Frost is that he's built up a ton of confidence with the puck, without the puck, getting much smarter out there when they've played maybe slightly lesser opponents. And so he can carry that into these games against tougher opponents and make those adjustments already at a higher level of confidence. And so I think that's where it helps him, that he is at this point where he can and will make those adjustments when they're playing tougher competition because he knows he can do it.
Yeah, and the Leafs were his team growing up. His dad worked in the arena. He was the voice of the arena, Andy. So there's always going to be some focus when Morgan plays against the Leafs. He's probably always wanted to kind of like do his best against them. So, you know, there's that too. We'll see some of that. But just in general, I have liked the progression. I've liked what I've seen. I do think there's a chance he could be a second line center in this league. He's definitely a really good third line center. Like, I think he's proven that now. And then we'll see if he could be a second line one over time.
Yeah, I think that's also where the advantage comes of having to play up in the lineup due to injuries, is that he's getting tougher minutes out there and playing against, you know, higher lines of the opponents. And I think, again, that just helps him. So, you know, in this mythic future where Sean Couturier is back at 1C, or there's like something else going on with the
Did
Flyers.
You have Cam Atkinson being back in this mythical season or no?
I don't know. Future? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, in a more perfect world where he is playing 3C, which is what we've always projected Morgan Frost as. Let's be clear, from the beginning. We've always said, oh, Morgan Frost, he's going to slot in at 3C eventually.
Right.
You know, and so I think when he does like solidify that position, he's going to be a really high end 3C in this league because he's had all of this experience.
Right. But the only change that's going to happen is, since Kevin Hayes failed as a 2C, is probably Noah Cates is going to be the 2C.
Right.
Like, that's what we didn't
think that's
foresee.
A bad thing. As long as Noah Cates goes on that trajectory that we hope he does, right?
It's good because he's never going to be the offensive guy that Morgan is, but he is clearly better defensively and better on faceoffs. And I think that's why he would be the 2C over Morgan for that reason. But again, if you're a smart coach, you're looking for a little extra offense, you could put the third line out there instead of the second line out there. It's not a big deal.
Exactly. So, you know, I do think that Morgan Frost is in this prime position to really continue to play well this season. He may have some lulls here and there, but I think that's okay. I think he'll be really just in a good position at the end of this season, having made successful steps forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, he's made steps. He's going to continue to make steps. I'm just really happy with what he's done. And I think everybody probably is off his back at this point. I think he had some detractors early this year. I can't imagine you'd be a detractor anymore. I just can't imagine.
Moving over to Owen Tippett. He's third in scoring on the team with 21 points, 12 goals, 9 assists, is a -6. So he's like a little sketchy on the defensive side of things. And you can tell that from the eye test too, when you watch him play, right? He's a guy that goes up the rush and takes his shot. And, you know, we've talked about his playmaking skills, that they need to improve, that he can't just be the shooter. He has to work in conjunction with that line. And it's interesting having him on the line with Frost and JVR. I think that is going to help him as a playmaker, because JVR is going to want to be net front and Owen Tippett is going to need to dish him the puck.
Yeah, it hasn't worked out exactly like that yet, but it should, in theory.
It should. That's what I'm saying, is that it should improve those skills in theory.
Yeah, he's gotten most of his assists with that, from what I could see looking at it, with Konechny and Frost. And so if he's got one of those guys on his line, that definitely helps him in that part of his game. For his goal scoring part of his game, though, he is not getting around the net enough. He's around 14% on his net goals, and everything's really out by the circles, you know, left circle more. If I'm looking at, it's not the goalie looking out. If I'm looking at the goalie, then it's left side is where he's scoring a lot, and right side not as much. But if you're looking from the goalie out, then it's, you know, the other way. Sometimes that's the way I just explain it, because it's just, I'm a left-right impaired guy. So, that's why it was a problem for him on the power play too, when they had him on the other side, on his offside. It just wasn't good. So they figured that out, but they haven't really unlocked this other part of his game. And I think the defensive part of his game is still not good. And that's another thing, because if his defensive game were stronger, he does have good speed. He could create more off of that, which he's not really doing much of, or if any at all right now, that way.
Yeah, if he like just back checked a little bit better, I think, he could be the one stealing the puck away right at the blue line and then
Right.
just taking it down the other end right
Right.
away.
Right. And then he'd be a
And
real threat.
yeah, I think that's a huge part of it with his defensive play, that if he just again, just worked a little harder on the back check, he has the speed to
Mhm.
catch guys. It's just a matter of, can he steal the puck away on the rush like that versus in a more stable environment for, when the other team is set up, right? Can he
Yeah.
poke back on the move as well? And I don't know that he's quite there yet, but he certainly needs to get better at that.
Yeah, the one thing, and this is not his fault, but this has been with roster construction, other than Morgan Frost and Konechny and Hayes when when he's right, there's not a lot of playmakers on this team. When they lost Giroux, they lost Voracek, they made an emphasis on getting scoring. When they traded for Tippett, he's a scorer. There's not enough playmakers on this team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's part of it too. And Tippett makes his own plays, but again, then
Right.
doesn't really follow up on them
No.
quite as much as some of the other guys do.
And
It's
even if you look
interesting.
at some of the prospects, I mean, Denoyer could definitely be an
Mhm.
assist guy, but he's got a ton of goals in Lehigh. Gauthier is mainly a goal scorer. Brink is mainly a goal scorer. Like they really lack playmakers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who can maybe step up and fill that role, maybe unexpectedly, or maybe,
Yeah.
it's somebody else in the
I
system.
think
But
Denoyer can. Like he has playmaking
yeah.
ability for whatever reason he's getting goals, but they still need more.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because he and Wade Allison are the only 2 on the team with more goals than assists in this season, and, of course, that makes sense when you think about their play. Of course, Allison is more limited in games played, but still,
Right.
you look at their stats, whereas, with everybody else, obviously, because there are more assists in volume than goals, everybody else, and, well, Travis Konechny's even at
Right.
20, but,
You
I
can live
think
with
it
it
just shows a
from
lot.
Yeah, you can live with it from an Allison perspective because he does give you that other greasiness and
Right.
physicality. Tippett, occasional
He doesn't
physicality,
have
not
that.
much. So he doesn't really have that. So I
Yeah.
can live with it from Allison.
Exactly. All right. Well, we've got Cam York to talk about and our nemesis of the week coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get all the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball, soccer, esports, and of course the NHL. We've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts like ours, you can find links to those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Russ, Cam York, we mentioned him in the first segment in our preview of tonight's game against the Leafs. And it is a relatively small sample size
Mhm.
for his stats this year. He's got 12 games played. He's got a goal and 7 assists. Last season, in 30 games played, had 3 goals, 7 assists, but he was a -14. Right now, he's a +8,
Mhm.
which shows, I think, they talked about why they sent him to Lehigh Valley to improve on certain things. And from all reports, from what we see, and from John Tortorella, more importantly, he likes what he's seen and thinks that Cam York has improved. Just digging into it, what's your take on the level of improvement, and was the Lehigh Valley time successful?
Yeah, the Lehigh Valley time was definitely successful. I also think it helps being paired with Ivan Provorov, who's also improved from last year too. I think both those things have really helped him defensively. Uh, when we're looking at the offensive part of his game, it's really good. Except I don't think he gets enough shot opportunities, and I think that's part of partly an issue on the power play, partly an issue of Provorov actually probably taking a little bit more of that than I'd like to see compared to York. But this year I don't know if you could do much about that. The physicality of his game is still poor. His hits against are higher than his hits by a lot. We're talking about
Yeah.
percent, but it's still a lot. And if you're going to be a top pairing number 2 guy in the league, which I don't think he is, but even if you're going to be a 4, a 3, or a 4, you're going to have to pick that part of your game up. I know a couple of years ago, like he showed that picture where he gained some muscle and he was feeling pretty good about himself. Still doesn't have the strength though. Having muscles is great. Having strength and technique sometimes is a different story. So this is something that he really still needs to work on a lot. Other than that, yeah, I mean, the additional speed has been great. The stick handling and hockey IQ has been really good. I think, we're talking about a 45 to 50 point defenseman. I don't think we're talking about anything like a 70-point defenseman or more, like, like Dan Boyle, like John's hoping for. I don't think we're talking that, but he could be really effective in a lot of different areas of the game. And that's where I think that's the best part of Cam York is. So if we can get a little more physicality out of him, he checks off a lot of boxes.
Yeah, he does have the lowest hits per 60 at 5-on-5 of all the Flyers defensemen.
Yeah.
So he also has to really improve the giveaway to takeaway ratio.
Yeah.
I think that, while he doesn't give away the puck a ton, he doesn't take away the puck that much right now either. And that he should improve on that over time.
Yes.
But I think, it is something that's there that he's going to have to continue to work on. I thought it was interesting just on Money Puck, looking up the stats of Flyers defensive pairings. If you look at the overall stats of the pairs, the best one, on the Flyers so far overall, not even just with Cam York, is when he's paired with Sanheim. They have the best expected goals for and the lowest expected goals against as a pair. And I thought that was interesting because I think, individually for Cam York, his game improves better when he's paired with Provy, but yet this Sanheim York pairing is better overall. And I don't know, what do you do with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could just, make Ristolainen your number 2 and not care about not getting any points, and that might solve that, because I think he was okay in that spot. If you could have York help out Sanheim and get him a little more on the board, I might be willing to do that and look at that. The other thing with the way that York is playing right now is he and Frost should be the guys that if you're going to slingshot the puck to him, let him bring it up into the offensive zone. They've only allowed that at times, and the rest has been ugly and almost garbage-like. Those are the 2 guys that are your best bet to bring the puck up. They do a good job. They know where to go. They're fast. Again, this seems too easy for me to say, but for them to put it into practice has been hard.
Yeah, I think that's very true as well. Flyers slingshot has always been a source of consternation for me.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I think that you really need to have the right guy to be able to do it. And the Flyers have generally not been successful.
It's true.
But yeah, I do think overall Cam York is in a good position. And I do think that whether he's on the top pairing every now and again with Provy, I think that's the best balance, right? Just have him up there every now and again to really improve some of those individual skills, but then have him paired with Sanheim for overall gameplay and allow him to be sheltered a little bit offensively, because Sanheim's going to take over on that front in a pairing like that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll see that pairing this year, though. I just feel like
it's that's why I say it's a quandary, because the stats are there, but they're not going to do it.
If it's something we want, it probably won't happen. That's the reality.
All right. We're going to wrap up with our nemesis of the week. And last week we talked about the sustainability of the win streak. So far, so good. Tough competition against the Leafs tonight and Buffalo tomorrow night. And man, I think I just got to go straight personal for this nemesis this week, because I don't want to risk anything. So I think for me this week, it is my birthday later this week. And this will be the first birthday in a very long time without having the captain of the Philadelphia Flyers have the same birthday as me. And it's something I've always, enjoyed over this last stretch, when Claude Giroux was the captain of the team, having the same birthday as him. And I don't have that this year, and it makes me very sad. So it is my nemesis this week.
Oh, I guess they have to find another captain now with your birthday. That's hard to do.
I do think Felix Sandstrom has that birthday too.
Okay, he just never will be captain. That's all.
I know.
That's the only downside. All right, my nemesis of the week is, when do we decide that we're not saying Happy New Year anymore? Is it 7 days into the new year, 10 days into the new year? Like, I think 2 or 3 days into the new year, like, if you haven't wished everybody, just give it up. I just say, just give it up. I don't know. Like, if I'm going to see somebody on January 20th and I haven't seen them since the new year changed, do I even say Happy New Year? I'm going to go with no, but I don't know your feeling on it. But that's my nemesis.
No, but you still can ask them how their holidays were.
That's
you may
fair.
not say Happy New Year, but you can say, "Oh, what'd you do over the holidays?"
That's good, because I don't want to
until the end of January or so.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, don't say Happy New Year to me. Even tonight in the press box, I'm not going to say it back.
All right. Well, I will make sure to not say that. All right. That'll do it for today's show. We are going to be back on Tuesday. Again, just we won't have a Monday show. This is sort of counting as the Monday show for this week. So we're going to recap both the Leafs and the Sabres on that show. And we're going to check in with the Phantoms and talk more about Bobby Brink's return then. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So send in your mailbag questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. For your next, check out Locked On NHL Prospects. It's your daily podcast covering the next generation of hockey superstars leading up to the NHL draft, available wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.